What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to stay updated on the Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And as always, make sure to comment your thoughts and opinions on anything that I talk about, but particular in today, because I'm very curious to see what everybody says. Honestly, it's forward hat kind of day. Big news came out in the NFL today. I'm going to talk about that first, then I'll talk about some smaller Ravens news that also happened. We're just so close to training camp coming back, and then we'll finally have stuff to talk about. We'll be able to, analyze how the players have been playing and things like that. But, last week or so of just almost there to getting into that training camp. But if you haven't heard the news that has come out today, I can read it from Tom Pelissero. Sorry, I can't pronounce his name. He said, the NFL just informed clubs that if a game cannot be rescheduled during the 18-week season in 2021 due to a COVID outbreak among unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit and be credited with a loss for playoff seeding. That is massive. That is probably the biggest thing to happen in the NFL this year, because the whole thing has, and whatever your thoughts on the vaccinations and things like that, the Ravens have been very upfront with what they've said, and they've said basically it's every player's decision. Okay. It's every player's decision to get vaccinated or not. And I'm not gonna talk about, the political side of getting vaccinated and things like that. That's not the type of thing that I want to talk about on this channel. However, if you have thoughts, stuff like that, let me know in the comment section down below. But the biggest thing is the Ravens, it's your personal decision. And I believe the numbers have come out that the Ravens are a little over 50% vaccinated. I know there was a quote from Baker Mayfield this week, and he talked about how it's a competitive advantage that the Browns are very heavily vaccinated because it allows them, to be with the team more and things like that. But with this new ruling, if you don't really understand the wording and things like that, obviously it's an 18-game season this year, 17 games, one bye week for every single team. If in week 17 or week 18, if in week 18 your team has a COVID outbreak, you lose week 18. You can't reschedule it whatsoever. Not possible. That counts as a loss. So if you're fighting if the Ravens are looking to get that one seed, if the Ravens are looking to get, maybe for some reason they're looking for a wild card spot, they get to week 18. Oh no, COVID outbreak. And we saw what happened last year with the COVID outbreak. The Ravens would have had to forfeit that game against the Steelers, most likely. The Steelers really got screwed, unfortunately for them. They had the Tennessee Titans game get pushed back, and everything was, just really unfortunate for them because they weren't really having the outbreak and things like that until I want to say the Sunday after the Ravens-Steelers game was postponed on Thanksgiving. The Steelers started to have a bit of an outbreak. It was much smaller than the Ravens outbreak. However, it was present. But overall, this rule is this is just the next step in really trying to push people to get vaccinated. This is going to push organizations, and it's going to push teams into really trying to force their players to get vaccinated. Because if you didn't know, the protocols already were pretty heavily against being unvaccinated. Basically, if you weren't vaccinated, you have to wear a mask. You can't sit with the team. When you're eating food, you can't really stand next to people that, aren't with you. When you travel, you can't leave the hotel or something like that. There's a lot of rules about, if you're unvaccinated, where it's you have no life. Whereas if you're vaccinated, you can do whatever you want in the NFL. And now they've added in, hey, if you still end up getting sick, if there's an outbreak or something like that, boom, that hurts your entire team. And that's something that the NFL decided was the best move. And so that means that the organizations are really going to have to look at that. And I think this could very well lead to some massive decisions from organizations. Nothing's come out yet. As the time of I'm recording this, the Ravens haven't come out and said anything about this changing their stance or things like that. But it very well could. Because I don't think the Ravens want to get put in a situation where, a player gets sick and a couple other guys are in close contact and they get sick, and then all of a sudden, boom, forced to lose the game. And that's really unfortunate. And I obviously, we will have to see what the Ravens do with this, but that's kind of the news on that front. That's pretty massive. That has major implications on not just the Ravens, but every organization in the NFL and every player in the NFL in how they go about things. Because if you're a vaccinated player and you believe heavily, like, because there's players that don't really believe in the vaccine, for example, Cole Beasley and things like that. They've talked about it. If you're a teammate of Cole Beasley and you're vaccinated, you may be more inclined to be like, "Hey, dude, get vaccinated. We don't want to have to forfeit." And I'm not trying to get political. I'm just trying to like give the analysis of like the organization and the player's standpoint of not wanting to forfeit games, because even the players that don't get vaccinated, they're not trying to lose. That's not their goal with it. You know, they're worried about health, they're worried about safety and things like that, and concerns with that. They're not thinking, "Oh, I want to screw over my team." That's not their thought process at all. So this is just adding an extra layer, an extra step that could push organizations to do something potentially seen as drastic. But that's it on that side of things. Other Ravens news, Ravens signed Brandon Stevens the other day, and that means that they've signed their entire rookie class and undrafted free agents, which is great news for them. You know, coming into training camp, we're not having any sort of Joey Bosa situation like he had with the Chargers, where he basically was like, "No, I want a certain type of contract." I want to say Joey Bosa missed the first 4 weeks of the season his rookie year, still dominated, still was a great player, but it's good to see that all the Ravens players were willing to jump on board pretty quickly, get all that stuff going and things like that. Nick Boyle talked about kind of his injury. He doesn't have a date that he's going to be, able to return by, but things are looking promising. And then kind of the final thing is, a couple guys were placed on the non-contact injury or non-football injury list. I know Engraven made a video about that. So if you want to get more information on that, absolutely go check out that video. I don't want to talk too much about it, but overall, the biggest thing I just wanted to talk about was the COVID news and things like that with the NFL's stance on it and potentially having to forfeit games, because that is scary that, you'd have to worry about that. So I really do think that this is going to push the Ravens to not force, but heavily incentivize getting vaccinated. And not even for the political agenda or anything like that, just because they don't want to be forced into a forfeit. And that's the NFL. That's not the Ravens. If the Ravens end up doing it, don't blame the Ravens organization for what they're doing. You can blame the NFL for putting that rule in place. But, if they don't end up doing it, don't criticize the Ravens at the same time. Like, this is just, every organization has their own way of dealing with it. The Ravens have been very, very upfront, very honest about what they're doing. And I think that's a very good thing. So they've been a standout organization in that aspect. But let me know your thoughts and opinion on this new rule. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content. We are so close to training camp, and we'll finally get some entertaining news to talk about and things like that, because it's been pretty dry for the last month or so. But thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will see all of you again tomorrow.